Hello Militians, Wow here. With a new generation on the horizon, I want to give you all a rundown of everything that you need to know about the story before Chapter 8, G27, God of Solace, arrives in Mabinogi. Spoilers ahead, and to start things off, let's recap the major plot point from before Chapter 8. The Time Loop. During Chapter 7, G22 through 25, we learned that Heimwerk, the God of Freedom, had trapped Eren in a time loop that reset every time the hero Militian was defeated. This was to find a hero who can overcome Phineas' fate. Amongst Heimwerk's pawns in this time-looping scheme was Balor, the first Fomorian God King, who was tasked with killing the hero if they failed to overcome the final trial and force a reset. However, the hero proved themselves to Heimwerk, overcoming all trials. In the aftermath of the trials, the hero faces and defeats Balor in a final duel before the Fomorian King passes, fulfilling his purpose and goals. Only after his death do we learn that Balor's existence also circumvented Phineas' fate by keeping the gate of Notoriat closed. Notoriat and the Shadow Realm. Originally, we learned about Notoriat back in Chapter 3, Generation 9, Alchemist. We were told that Notoriat is the world of darkness, with a black sun that radiates an energy called Dark Erg, and that this energy is the base of all alchemy. During the second battle of Magtre, Clam Solas, the spirit weapon of the God King Nawada, was stained by the blood of the Fomorians and became corrupted, affecting Phineas' fate, which was engraved upon it. Thus, Clam Solas became the key to opening Notoriat. However, when both Nawada and Clam Solas were devoured by Crom Crotch, the danger the corrupted spear weapon posed was eliminated. At least until Chapter 3 G9, when the Fomorians and corrupted alchemists resurrected Clam Solas within the Shadow Realm. Even though this resurrected Clam Solas was slain shortly after by the Militian hero, its appearance in the Shadow Realm was enough to create a gate to Notoriat, resulting in the Shadow Realm expanding due to the new influence of Dark Erg into the realm. This gate is invisible to anyone until G26. Quick side info dump. The Shadow Realm is not Notoriat. These are two separate places. The Shadow Realm is a mirror realm of Eren, illuminated by a dark sun. It is claimed that this realm was originally created by the Partholon prince, Tuan Mac Karil. However, this is just a claim, as there's a lot about the Shadow Realm that is left vague and in the unknown. Now on to the current chapter and G26, Winds of Fate. With this new chapter, a new threat has appeared in Eren, the Divine Beasts. These beasts are part of Phineas' fate, and with Balor no longer blocking the gate to Notoriat, these creatures are entering/appearing in Eren uninhibited. Thus, our goal is to find a way to stop the Divine Beasts that threaten several towns across Aliat Kingdom and Iria. Due to political reasons and post-Chapter 7 tensions between various factions, we're instructed by Queen Erwin to team up with a mercenary corps to tackle this issue. Thus, we're introduced to a new cast of characters. Ayn. Before meeting the player, she led the charge in investigating the appearance of the Divine Beasts, wanting to help protect people even if it means less pay. She grew up in Tircanel with a religious aunt and often visited the church and the pontiff's court in her younger years. She is a responsible drinker, and she is a close friend of Delga's. At least she thinks she is. Declan. Declan was formerly a castle guard at Wrath Castle. He was in the midst of the G24 battle against Crom Crutch of the Dark Moon. Yes, this battle. His younger sister passed away during the same conflict, resulting in him having some PTSD because of it. He values protecting others, so his decision to join Ayn on her mission was an easy one. Shefra. Shefra is the youngest of the mercenaries, but he's been a mercenary since a young age. While he seems to be indifferent, apathetic, and lazy, he's a hard worker, observant, and very strategic. And Delga. Delga is our adversary in G26. However, it's important to note that she doesn't seem to be the primary villain of this chapter. Delga is trying to prevent Phineas's fate and resolve the Divine Beast issue as well, and is convinced that the only way to stop it is for us, the hero Militian, to not be involved anymore. In her possession is a special stone that lets her teleport around. She has a single-minded focus on her objectives at the cost of her personal relationships, she has a frail body, and she is a Fir Bolg. There are several other mercenaries as well, but we don't meet them until the post-G26 side quests, so we're not going to talk about them here. The Fir Bolg. The Fir Bolg were first mentioned in the in-game G1 book, The Goddess Who Turned to Stone. They were among the original inhabitants of Ulad along with the Partholons and the Tuatha De Danann, the humans of Ulad that we know today. Their next mention popped up with the dungeon revamp, with the Polnabrunn's creation being attributed to the Fir Bolg, implying they have a connection to all the Wraths. Wraths is the proper name for all the dungeons, by the way, if you didn't know. Their next mention and first appearance in the game was with the Chronicle mission Notoriat, where players got to see through a playwright's interpretation of the events of the battle. In the Chronicle mission, we learned that the Fir Bolg were aided by the Fomorians in their battle against the Tuatha De Dananns. However, towards the end of the war, the Fomors ditched the Fir Bolg, and the Fir Bolg's king vanished. The Fir Bolg forces began to dwindle down and started to fray, with fear that their king was imprisoned or dead. Soon, all that was left was a single force led by the mightiest of all the Fir Bolg, Sereng. Notoriat, the king of the Tuatha De Danann at this time, sought to extend an olive branch to the remaining Fir Bolg, wanting to bring peace between the warring factions and put an end to the war. Notoriat's generals and advisors, however, didn't want peace. They wanted to erase the Fir Bolg entirely from history. Thus, a final clash on the plains of Sinmag began. Sereng's forces, in their final push against the Tuatha De Danann, utilized mysterious monoliths that channeled Dark Urd onto the battlefield. Through the eyes of an unnamed soldier, we learn that Keyhole and the Fomorians tricked and betrayed the Fir Bolg into using the Dark Urd that lies sleeping in the land, and also set the stage for Notoriat to be betrayed by his own people. When Notoriat and Sereng faced one another, Sereng rejected Notoriat's offer of peace and sliced off the deity's arm. Morrigan interfered to save Notoriat and besieged the unnamed soldier to stop Sereng. Upon defeating Sereng, the unnamed soldier doesn't finish him off, leaving the Fir Bolg warrior's fate unknown. And as a reminder again, the Chronicle mission is a playwright's interpretation of the war. It may not be entirely factual or accurate to the real events that transpired during the war. However, it gives us a strong idea of the political and chaotic climate at that time period. The next appearance of the Fir Bolg in-game is with G26 with Delga. During the course of G26, we learn that the Fir Bolg people split into 3 groups. One that fled underground, being Delga's ancestors, who hid within the Fir Bolg's last refuge deep within Mach Dungeon. The second group went far north to another land, possibly to Kanata. And the third, and the last, went out to sea to inhabit what we know as Moonlight Island, before they all vanished. Delga is the last descendant of the Fir Bolg who fled underground, using her own hair to recreate a doll that will permit her to enter the secure refuge of Mach Dungeon whenever she needs it. During the story, it is hinted that our current understanding of how the dungeons work and the origins of the goddess statues may not be entirely true. However, the generation doesn't expound upon this any further. We also learn a rather grim fate for the Fir Bolg king, that when the Fomorians betrayed the Fir Bolg during the First War, the Fir Bolg king somehow turned into the Polnabrunn. As we see through Delga's memories, she and her mother would check on their king regularly, and that the stone in Delga's possession is a piece of the Polnabrunn that grants her the ability of teleportation, a skill that their king possessed. Due to Delga's and her late family's isolation, her hatred towards the Tuatha De Dananns festered and shaped her prejudices. While she worked with Ein and the other mercenaries to investigate the Divine Beast, she held a silent grudge against them, and avoided interacting with them very much. She ultimately parted way with the mercenaries to find her own solution to the Divine Beast and prevent Phineas' fate, believing the best course of action was removing the Militian hero from the chessboard. Thus, Delga used her powers to teleport both the Floth, a divine beast, and the gate of Notoriat to the Fir Bolg's last refuge, in an effort to lure us there and strip us of our powers. This obviously doesn't work for her. Phineas' fate and the divine beasts. So what is Phineas' fate and what are the divine beasts? Simple answer for both, we don't really know yet. As previously mentioned, the divine beasts are a part of Phineas' fate and are creatures from Notoriat, entering Erin now that the gate is no longer blocked. They are fairly strong, extremely resilient, and they can't really be permanently killed, supposedly. They come in a variety of forms, with some that can merge together into a larger, more powerful creature such as the Floth, which is implied to be the source divine beast for all the ones we see in this generation. Another divine beast we've seen is the Nakalave from G25 Part 2, when proving ourselves against Hemorrhoid. So we're definitely going to be seeing this darn whale again. According to Milia, yes Milia, she's back again, there's no sentient will behind the divine beast's appearance. That their arrival in Erin is a reaction to some kind of stimulus that is unknown to us at the time being. In short, there's no big bad evil guy controlling these divine beasts and sending them out to cause chaos. The divine beasts are more of a force of nature that is just happening and we have to react to it. As for what Phineas' fate is, well, we don't know much about what Phineas' fate itself is, but we do know what Phineas is. Phineas is one of the 4 cities of the gods. We learned in previous generations that there are 4 cities of the gods that were abandoned or destroyed. The first city is Phalius. We visited this deserted city several times since Chapter 3. The second city is Phineas. This city was long destroyed. In G26, we were finally told that Phineas was destroyed because it prohibited conflict, and when conflict occurred within the city, the divine beasts appeared and destroyed the place. The last 2 cities are Murius and Gorius. We only know these 2 by names, and we haven't been to either of them yet or seen any of their influence. We're definitely going to be seeing one of these very soon. So, getting back to the story. After dealing with Delga's tunnel vision schemes and defeating a Dark Erg Warp Umbro Floth, Delga escapes and the Gate of Notoriat snaps back to its original location now that Delga's power is unable to stabilize it. The militia here on the mercenaries locate the gate's actual location within the Shadow Realm, and with Doran's aid, they place a temporary seal on it. However, sealing the Gate of Notoriat wasn't flawless, as Shefra was injured during the process. Nothing life-threatening, just an internal injury from the backlash of sealing the Gate of Notoriat. Yeah, this does not sound good at all. But despite his injury, Shefra joins you and Declan in submitting reports to the Pontiff's court and the Alliate Kingdom soon after. During the conversation with the Pontiff Etain, she notes that Shefra seems familiar, even though Shefra states that they've never met before that day. Etain apologizes for being mistaken, but then asks Shefra if he can stay behind so she can inspect his injury while the Militian and Declan go on to speak with the Queen. Nowhere in the conversation did someone mention Shefra's injury, and he even calls this out. After regrouping with Shefra back at the West Wing camp, we learned that Etain inquired how Shefra was injured, and she told him that she could still feel the influence of the divine beast, whatever that means. She then told him that its influence will probably fade away after he fully recovers, so he needs to rest and keep an eye on it. If this isn't a Chekhov's gun situation, I don't know what is. Anyway, as the generation wraps up with the Militian and the mercenaries getting some financial aid from the kingdom, utilizing Moonlight Island as a base of operations and moving forth, there's one other plot thread that gleaned through the story. Adelia. Adelia's stream is a stream that goes through Tir Canal. It's also an old keyword in the game that when you use it with NPCs, they share that Adelia's stream was named after a priestess who died protecting Tir Canal from Fulmores long ago. With G26, all the new NPCs have replies to this keyword, possibly hinting that the story behind Adelia's stream may get some development in the near future. Myself and fellow lore geeks suspect the priestess Adelia may be connected to Ein, as Ein grew up in Tirkanel and Etain and Corriton had some suspicious dialogue during an RP quest, commenting about Ein. So yeah, keep an eye out for more mentions about Adelia. But with that all said, that's all the relevant information you need to know before venturing into G27, Garden of Solace. Good luck and have fun, Militians. Enjoy the next generation.